Article 6, that was done by Free Speech for the People's petition for impeachment of Donald Trump, deals with the larger question that in part I wrote my book, the little booklet of Story Honor in D.C. And that deals with the debate that has been going on in this country for a very long time, that the DOJ under Alberto Gonzalez wrote the memo, Collateral Consequences Upon Conviction, which argued in part that a convicted felon is not capable of holding office because of exactly the impeachment clause. That a convicted felon is a person who's convicted of high crimes and as a result not capable of holding office, and that's what our founding forefathers wished. The problem is that this wouldn't just simply, this is a debate that should be happening probably within courts and potentially could be a quo ranturo position if attorneys argued with attorneys generals of other states to argue the position of the 2006 DOJ memo, which argued that there are laws that exist on the books that say that if you are a convicted felon, you cannot hold office. You can't hold office on a board. You can't hold elected office. All 50 states have some form of a definition of what that a convicted felon can't hold public office. The only place where that doesn't seem to work is at D.C., and granted this because of the Powell case in 1969, my birth year. But the reason that held this bizarre philosophy, but a convicted felon would do exactly what is on Article 6, attack the DOJ and attack the FBI for retribution for potential criminal actions that they are engaged in or that they have been engaged in, or in Trump's case, still indicted and facing prosecution. So what does the president do? Is he violates, obviously, USA versus Nixon, and reaches into his cases and manipulates those cases because they're the president and they can do that. They're the president and they believe that they can do that. Believing that Trump would not have done that is foolhardy. Every single convicted felon would have done exactly what is in Article 6. But you still should support the petition of impeach Trump again, because we do need to have an answer to this question, and we should have it immediately. It deals with national security issues. Can a convicted felon become president of the United States? Because a convicted felon who becomes president will reach into his office and attack law enforcement and prosecutors to protect himself, and doing that endangers other American citizens. And all that the convicted felon is doing is they think they're protecting themselves, but they're actually protecting themselves at the cost of everyone else. And the reason why they do that is because that's what convicted felons do. It has nothing to do, it has just realities. Convicted felons always avoid justice. They always run from cops. They always try to hit cops. They always try to do anything to avoid having the handcuffs put on them. Donald Trump's no different. Presidents will not be any different. Congressmen will not be any different. Nobody likes going to jail. No one likes being handcuffed by police officers. So they will do things to prevent themselves from being arrested. And depending on the nature of the crime and how long a person could be looking at their time in jail, will determine just how far they will go. If a person's going to spend the rest of their life in imprisonment, they're not going to care if they shoot police officers. They're not going to care if they shoot and kill a police officer trying to resist an arrest that would send them to prison for the rest of their life. Yeah, that's why people shoot, people who are looking at the rest of their lives in prisons or decades in prisons sometimes will take pot shots at police officers. Because who cares? You're in jail for the rest of your life. How many lifetime sentences can you serve? Kind of thing. So that's what Trump is doing. Who cares about violating U.S. versus Nixon? 10 years in prison for him is the rest of his life in prison. So, yeah, fine, U.S. versus Nixon, screw Nixon, I can do it. That's what you're going to do. This is why you have things like Coro Venturo. Coro Venturo is your attorney's general, you going to an attorney and getting an attorney to agree with your group that Trump, being a convicted felon, is in violation of the Constitution itself under the 2006 DOJ memo, Collateral Consequences Upon Conviction, and that you agree with that, and for that person to lobby, and that attorney to lobby the Attorney General of your state to get that person to, and if that person agrees, then the Attorney General can file a case with the U.S. Supreme Court to say that that person cannot constitutionally hold public office. That's the challenge. We can't, and that's how it should be. Because if a person constitutionally is unqualified to hold office, it's not a political question, it's a legal question. It's a constitutional question between constitutional lawyers and the United States Supreme Court. Or the other issue, which is probably why, which is one of the things where I am learning to agree with the Supreme Court when it came to the 14th Amendment, Section 3. It doesn't bar you from running, but right now he is in violation of 14th Amendment, Section 3. If you had a attorney general who was willing to pick that up and argue to the U.S. Supreme Court that Donald Trump can't be in office because of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, or the fact that a convicted felon, just like what is written in the 2006 DOJ memo, you can't hold public office, and get him out, which would help clear up the ethics of Washington, D.C. Or potentially for us, if there is an opportunity, for example, for suing under those other elements, like deprivation of rights under color of law, or weapons actions, we should be looking at that as well, on top of the lobbying. We need to be looking at a full court press, because this position that a convicted felon cannot hold public office must be enforced. And the reason why that must be enforced is because the next convicted felon will be someone who will kill people, blow things up, do terrible things. Which, by the way, we haven't yet gotten to that point where Donald Trump might be looking at a midterm where he could be impeached, or other things where he may take even more aggressive actions to protect himself from facing criminal prosecution. We have not reached that point yet, but we will. And we need to remove him, because what convicted felons do to protect themselves, you just have to think of a convicted felon doing what they can to protect themselves with all the power of the presidency. Thank you.
Impeachment Article 6, terminating DOJ and FBI officials based on retribution in his conduct of the office of President of the United States, prepared by Free Speech for People. Terminating DOJ and FBI officials based on retribution in his conduct of the office of President of the United States, Donald John Trump, in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States and, to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has prevented, obstructed, and impeded the administration of justice, in that Donald John Trump, using the powers of his high office, engaged personally and through his close subordinates and agents in a course of conduct or plan designed to obtain retribution for lawful investigations into his own corrupt or unlawful activities, and to cover up, conceal, and protect himself and other parties involved in these activities. The means used to implement this course of conduct or plan included the following, carried out in coordination with or via his close subordinates. 1. Firing at least 12 nonpartisan public career prosecutors in the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, who were lawfully authorized to work on at least one of two federal prosecutions against Trump, specifically a case related to Trump's interference in the 2020 election and a case related to his improper and unlawful retention of records after he left office. At the time of their termination, then Acting Attorney General James McHenry explained that these officials were fired because of their involvement in these prosecutions and asserted that they therefore could not be trusted to assist in faithfully implementing the president's agenda. 2. Firing nonpartisan public servants in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, who investigated Donald Trump for election interference and the unlawful retention of documents, as well as nonpartisan officials in charge of at least 5 FBI field offices. 3. Firing FBI agents and approximately 24 DOJ prosecutors, all of whom were nonpartisan career public servants, who worked on the investigation and prosecution of cases stemming from the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. In this matter, Donald John Trump has sought retribution against federal prosecutors for carrying out their duties with regard to the investigation and prosecution of his co-insurrectionists. 4. Demanding from then acting director of the FBI a full list of thousands of authorized investigative officers and employees of the FBI for the purpose of carrying out a review process to determine whether any additional personnel actions are necessary solely because they were assigned to and did carry out duties related to the January 6 insurrection investigations. 5. Terminating, reassigning, and demoting thousands of FBI and U.S. DOJ officials, thereby undermining the independence of both agencies and the security of the United States. In all of this, Donald John Trump has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as president and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore Donald John Trump, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial, and removal from office.